Hi, it's Tuesday, November 27th, and welcome to Strictly Business.
Beautiful day, I'm feeling good. Gonna make some moves. No more shoulda, coulda. No time to waste, got nothing to lose. Now it's time to move forward. All I can be. So glad to be free. 'Cause I know if I try, no matter how I'm feeling, I can fly high. Ooh, no ceiling. I'll do my best. I ain't gonna stress, 'cause I'm taking care of business. Strictly business.
We recently did an interview with Dr. Lesli Myers, the author of Life Leadership Lessons. So we're going to take a moment so you guys can see this interview.
Hi, I'm Lesli Myers. I serve as the Superintendent of Schools for Brockport Central School District, and I am starting lucky year number 7 in that role, 25 years as an educator overall. My journey is really an interesting one and quite non-traditional. I started as a high school counselor, and I have to start by saying I had no desire, yearning, to become a superintendent of schools. I thought I'll work for about 30 or so years, and towards maybe the end of my career, I'll become school counselor of the year, retire, and all will be well. And so I describe my journey as one that was accidentally on purpose. And so I always had leadership skills from really, really young, but just never thought that it would lead to the superintendency. So I had great mentors along the way, both male and female, African American, Latino, white, etc., who just always would push me and say, Lesli, there's more to what you're doing. There's more that's out there for you. And so when I started as a counselor, I was very happy in doing that. And one of my administrators who was at the central office level said, Lesli, I just want you to know I recommended you for an administrative program at St. John Fisher. And they had just started an educational administration program with a focus on urban leadership because the Rochester City School District at that time did not have enough administrators to backfill all of the retirements that would be occurring. So then Superintendent Dr. Clifford Janey and then President of the college at St. John Fisher, Dr. Catherine Kehoe, met and they formed this partnership. And so I was one of the first students in that program. Why I say accidentally on purpose, because 45 days into the program, while I was at the library at Fisher, I got a call from my administrator saying, hey, what are you doing? I'm studying. He said, well, just so you know, tomorrow you're going to be a house administrator, which is an assistant principal position. I said, what do you mean I'm going to be a house administrator? He said, well, our administrator is going out on an emergency medical leave and you're it. So be ready. And so I was like, okay. And that's how my administrative career started. And so again, I was a house administrator in the city, and then an opportunity became available to become a central office administrator in a neighboring district, Greece. So I applied for that and got it. Did that for a couple years, and then I decided to go back to school, back at Fisher again for their doctorate program. And in the midst of that, an opportunity became available to become an assistant superintendent for student services in the Ithaca City School District. So I applied for that and got it. And at that point, I was like, I'm good. I like being an assistant superintendent. I'm good with holding the cue card for the superintendent, like doing behind the scenes work. And about 2 or 3 years in, she said, Les, you are unequivocally and absolutely ready. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And she really, again, having those mentors support me, she said no. She started pushing me out the nest and said to me, you really need to do this. And so I applied. I will tell you that I did not get my first superintendency that I applied for. It took me 2 or 3 times. And so I applied to Brockport because I really wanted to return back home to Monroe County where my mother was. She was aging and had some medical difficulties. And 7 interviews later, I became the 8th superintendent of schools for the Brockport Central School District, the first person of color and the first woman of color in Monroe County to become a superintendent. And so that, I didn't really think about it much until the very end of the process. A good friend of mine, Dr. Sean Nelm, said, you know, when you get this job, and he spoke that into existence for me, he said, you're going to be the first. And I said, oh, I know at Brockport. He said, no, in the entire county, Les, just know that. You've got this. He said, it's yours really to lose. And so I will share this quick story. I pulled into the parking lot here for my first interview, and I'm telling you, I got scared. I thought about it. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm applying to be the superintendent. What was I thinking? And I actually share this in my book, this story. I'm thinking, I can't do this. Nobody who looks like me has done this. Oh my goodness. And I thought about my parents and the sacrifices they made for me and other educators of color who were the first principals or first superintendents of color. And, you know, I sat there and I said, you know what? All these people made sacrifices unknowingly for me. And so I am qualified, I am ready, I'm experienced. And so this small voice said, Les, either go hard or go home, right? Because the superintendent can't have tons of doubt and hesitations and fears, right? And so I walked in and the rest is history. And so I do share that if it is possible for me, it is absolutely possible for others. And so that journey has been amazing. I'm in my 7th year, and I wouldn't want to do anything else at this point. I love what I do.
Wow, ladies. Yeah. What stuck with me was when she said, it's yours to lose. Like, you have to really go hard or go home, like she said. You have to, if you know this is something you want to do and you're striving to be in a particular position or even owning your business, you got to push forward and you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And I like the piece where she said, you know, when you're experienced and you have it, but you still have that fear, that's part of the normal thing of stepping out of your comfort zone, but you have to own it. And because you know you have the experience, you're ready for it. Being a superintendent, you have to be able to make quick decisions. It can't come with a lot of fear. So even thinking about that, but definitely etching her niche as, you know, the first Black superintendent of Brockport schools is a big deal. But the hope in that, the silver lining is that we all have the capacity, we work hard and believe in ourselves to do it. And that grit stuff she talks about in the book, having grit.
You know, doubt and fear is really real. And I know all of us at some point in our careers have really had to push through, you know, to get to the other side of that. Go hard or go home can mean so many different things. And, you know, just recently I had to say that to myself, Yvette, for the next chapter, next season in your life, it's go hard or go home, you know. So I am truly in belief of that line. And I think as an encouragement to others, we need to be saying that to each other. Charlene, go hard or go home.
Absolutely. Christine, go hard or go home. I'm going hard, baby.
We going hard.
We going hard. The ladies of League of Professional Women going hard.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to cut back in and see what else she has to say.
I grappled with, do I want to write a book? Right after I finished writing a several 100-page dissertation, I thought, okay, I'm good with writing right now. But my chair and some of my former professors were like, Lesli, you need to think about either academic writing, you know, doing journaling, writing for journals, or you really need to think about writing a book. And so life circumstances, I just said, no, not right now, not right now. But what I did start doing was almost like a blog, and I had social media posts. And one day I was just sitting around and I said, you know what? I'm going to do these life lessons, and I'm going to call them LCM life lessons, right? And so I started with the first one and wrote about a story in my life. And then I connected it back to leadership. and then post questions like, so why is this important and why do leaders need to know this particular skill? So I wrote 1, and then I wrote 2, and then ... over the period of about 2 years, I wrote 15 of them. And so I was posting them on LinkedIn and Facebook and tweeting them. And 2 really important things happened that really, I think, propelled me to writing the book. 1, a woman from the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area said, Dr. Myers, I just want you to know, please keep writing those leadership lessons, because every time you post them, I send them out to over 100 assistant principals and principals across the country, and they love these stories, so keep them coming. So I thought, that's interesting. You know, I'm having an impact across the country. And then one of my Facebook friends said, you know what, you really need to put these lessons in a book. I'm a publisher. Why don't you talk with me? So it was another one of those moments where I said, if I don't do this right now, it's never going to happen. So I picked up the phone. I reached out to her. That was a Friday. We had an appointment for Monday night. I had a contract signed by Wednesday. And she said, you need to do at least 15 or so more, because we want to do one for each day of the month. So it becomes habitual. And so I got to writing. And so before it was very organic. So I might write 1 and then might not write another one for another week. Sometimes I'd write a couple during the week. So I wasn't used to having a regimented process. And, you know, we had a timetable or time frame that we'd set. And so I really had to push myself. And so there were times that my fiance, I said, listen, we're not going to be able to do dinner tonight, or I'm going to have to really, the creative juices are flowing. So I'm sorry, we're going to have to put off date night. And so I wrote. And what ended up happening, though, is I got into a really bad car accident midway through the process, where I sustained a concussion and I couldn't write. I couldn't look at my computer. I couldn't look at the phone. And so I lost a week of writing. And that was at the beginning of December last year. And so that kind of pushed me off or set the timetable off. And my publisher was like, we can push it back. And I said, no. We said that by the end of the year, December 31st, I would be done. And so I pushed and pushed, and I sent my first draft January 1st, 2018 in the afternoon or evening to my publisher, and I got it done. But there was some personal time that I did have to sacrifice with family or friends to do that. But when I get something on my mind, I wanted to finish this and bring it to conclusion and bring it to fruition, and it happened. So I'm very proud of Life's Leadership Lessons, and it really is a body of work that I'm contributing to. It's very personal. You get to know who Lesli Claire Myers is, both on the personal and professional side, and I am very excited that I finished it.
Ladies, pushing through, even though there was a tragedy, I mean, she got it done. She finished her book. Are there times where you had to like push through or, you know, skip out on date night or tell the kids, I can't do this right now. I have something I have to finish because there's a deadline, you know, just moments in your life where that had to happen?
I think for me, like when you are pioneering anything, when you're the first and starting something, sacrifices are different because you have to set a standard. So your sacrifices are bigger. So opposition is bigger. You know, the things that you experience is bigger. So I believe, you know, like even with me starting, I would be the first Black trichologist here in Rochester. And so when I think about that, I think about how much pressure that is because I have to set a tone because I will be passing the baton to somebody else. And then there's people that will be looking at you because you are setting the standard. So I think with her, those were the pressures. I'm setting this standard. I'm doing these things. I'm writing this book. I've experienced tragedy, but I still have to push through it because I have to complete it.
Especially if you have that mindset already of completing something, you continue to push through no matter what the situation is. Because at the end of the journey, it's like, who you doing it for, you know?
I also think, too, with us being leaders and her being the first Black, people are looking to her to fail. And people are also looking to her to succeed, those mentors or mentees, those people that come behind her. I think for me, when I was going through my doctorate last year or a year and a half ago, two things is that when I first started the program, my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. And so that made me want to quit. But I knew I had to push through. And then that following spring, my divorce was finalized after a long time of just patiently waiting. And it gets hard and it gets weary. And I'm sure that we have all been on that same journey in different areas that we have experienced, but pushing through because you know you got someone else looking up to you. And you know you want to say to them haters, I made it, you know, at the same time, but at the same time you're doing it for you. You got to keep going.
I think for me, we all have that shared experience when there's some type of tragedy when you're trying to do something. It seems like, and people would say the enemy, you know, is busy, which is true in most cases when you're trying to do something, especially when it's the right thing, especially when it's taking you to another level. There's all this stuff that happens. I think the most terrifying time for me was when I was working on my master's degree. And I really have to shout out the program that Lesli went through, I went through at Brockport, the Department of Educators, Tom Hernandez and the whole team that supported me. I started Brockport's master's program pregnant, and I ended it pregnant. And in that 3-year span, with already 3 kids, we were living with my mentor, because in that process, our landlord's mother, who really owned the house, passed away, and the siblings were fighting over the house. So they gave us 30 days to decide to buy the house or move. And our next move was really to be in our own home. So in that time frame of needing to move from our house that we lived in, we lived with our godparents for about 4 months. And in that 4 months' time, a really close friend of ours died in a car accident. And then my brother was murdered the day I signed my contract with RCSD. And so all of that in 3 years then we lost our vehicle and I was getting a ride back and forth to Brockport. When they said bind it for my thesis, which is what bind it means that you're done, I cried. And then on graduation day, you know, I was getting to the end of the pregnancy with our second child. So in that 3 years time, and there were a lot of moments, I even went to the department and said, I'm going to take a break. They were like, no, you're not. I was at my implementation phase. I had completed the hours I needed. I just was like, there's no way I can finish a thesis. And had it not been for the support and, you know, my faith definitely playing a big role in the support that surrounded us, I would not have, there's no way I would have finished. It was too much going on. And so, you know, thinking about that, I think for me, the completion was being the first in my family. Like, there were people looking up to me, but at this point I had children looking up to me and really wanted to getting it done, and my own sense of accomplishment, you know, doing it for myself, definitely for my legacy, but definitely those things you want for yourself as well. It's important.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with more from Lesli Myers.
What book would you like me to read? Put that in the comments below. Join me for Cuddle Time Story Time every Thursday at 7 o'clock. See you here.
Welcome back, and we're going to go right into Dr. Myers' interview.
So there are many skills that leaders need to be successful, but I'll share 3 of them that are very personal to me. The first one is, and this might sound, I hope it doesn't come across as arrogant, but you need to be intelligent in order to be successful. You know, can you imagine if I'm a superintendent and I'm not well-read, I'm not research-based, or I don't understand educational theory and practice, if I don't understand educational law. So in order to be successful, you need to understand your craft and you need to understand the content. So number one, you need to be intelligent or smart. And I'm not saying that you need to know all the answers, but you need to know where to get them. The second skill that I think is critical is the ability to form relationships with people, right? My job is very person-centered and person-focused, but it requires working with a variety of stakeholders. So I'm certainly responsible for serving the students, the 3,500 students in my district, but I have teachers and administrators, support staff. I work with the Board of Education. I have parents who are taxpayers and community members. So it's important that I form positive and meaningful relationships with those different stakeholder groups. And the third one, for me, is a sense of humor, right? Things get challenging, things can get tough, and emotionally, psychologically, laughter really can help you over and through very difficult times. So I think having a good balance of sense of humor and to be able to laugh and not take things so seriously all the time.
Yeah, those three, to be intelligent, and I understand what she's saying. Some people may take that the wrong way, but you have to know your field of work. You have to know what you're doing. You know, if you don't know and you're not staying on top of it, especially Yvette, you can talk to this being in healthcare. Like, things are changing all the time. So you have to constantly read and go to conferences and figure out what's new. And you too, with hair. Yeah.
Especially for the position that she's in. You got to know your stuff. You have to be intelligent. Like she said, you got to know where to get the answers from. Like she said, you don't have to know every answer, but you do want to know where to get the answers from. It's always changing. So you got to stay up on things. You got to just know your stuff.
You do.
Really, you have to know your stuff.
I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that people are looking to her. Mm-hmm. So if she gets asked a question and she don't know, people are going to be like, gotcha, those type of things. So it's always just, dotting her I's and crossing her T's, staying on her P's, Q's, just being sure that she has the answers. I think it's important, though, in her leadership position, that when she doesn't have the answers, that she has that team that she has developed, that she has nurtured, to try to help her with those answers, because I'm sure that's a team approach as well, her job. I know a lot of it is on her own, but I know she has a strong team that's helping to hold her up too.
And that's where that relational piece comes in.
Exactly.
Because if you can't form relationships, you definitely won't do well with community. You need people, strong people, just like us. We feed off each other. You need strong people in your circle that's gonna, help you. If you don't know something, somebody else does. So you need those resources and people.
And I can say, as far as a sense of humor, I've heard Dr. Myers speak a few times, and she's very intelligent, and she draws you in every time. And I'm constantly like, when are you going to have your 2-day conference? Because I will be the first to purchase a ticket. But she's definitely all of those characteristics that she mentioned is her. It's Dr. Myers.
That's how I actually feel about you, Tanisha. Like, when you speak, you draw me in. Yeah. And I know, you're going to have your thing soon come, your conference, but I just love your energy when you speak. And I remember when the first time I met you, it was just so natural, our relationship, and so sisterly. And I'm just thankful that I got a chance to meet you. I know this is about Dr. Myers here, but when Charlene said that, it sort of just, I don't know. So.
Because when she speaks, you speak from the heart. You can feel it. You can really feel it.
I'm sorry.
Authentic.
But really,
it's genuine.
And you're a people person, just like Dr. Myers. She's a people person. So
I appreciate it. It's about the relationship building. Yeah. It really is. And I appreciate that. And I do, to bring it to Dr. Myers, I think all of us look up to her for some level of inspiration, and she will tell you, and I said I would say this, when I was deciding to leave the district, how she was in my mind because I said I would be the school counselor that Dr. Myers was. That relationship building piece, that making people feel welcoming in your space, we all have that. And I think that's the reason that we have Dr. Conyers. That's the reason why we have entrepreneurs and a woman that brought all of us together. That's the reason why we have a business owner. That's the reason why we have a master, I gotta use the word.
Hair loss practitioner.
There's another word that we use though. There's another trichologist, a master trichologist. And that is the reason why we have the first Black superintendent of schools in Brockport, New York. And that's attributed to relationships and being authentic and also having a sense of humor. We had a moment earlier, and a sense of humor helped us get past that moment. And I think that's important too.
Absolutely.
I think it's important.
We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to go right into Dr. Myers' interview.
There are two things that I'd love to leave with folks. One, and they're both quotes. The late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Our lives begin to end the moment we remain silent about the things that matter." And so it's important for people to speak their truth. And it's important to be courageous, right? If you think about 2018 and what's going on in our country, what's going on in our state, and what's going on regionally, we need people who are going to speak up and speak out about the things that matter. Poverty is a problem. The dropout rate is a problem. The way that Black and brown people are treated in a variety of venues is a problem. And we need people to speak out about those conditions and more, and advocate and say it until they get tired of saying it. When you get tired, bring somebody with you to help you say that. So that to me is critical. The second one is, one cannot discover new oceans unless he or she has the courage to lose sight of the shore. And so I'm really about taking risks and stepping outside of your comfort zone. I've shared before that too many times we get stuck in our clique, our crew, or those folks that we know that we're most comfortable with. So if it's our family, biological family, if it's our church or mosque family, or if it's just those individuals who are like-minded with us. But we have to really push those boundaries and step outside of our comfort zones and try things that we haven't tried before, right? So going to places that we haven't gone before, or doing things that just really test what we're comfortable with. Because I firmly believe that until the uncomfortable get comfortable, we can't continue to let the comfortable be uncomfortable. So I think it's critical that you take risks, that you step outside your comfort zone, that you focus on trying something new, immerse yourself in an environment, a place, or a situation that is completely unfamiliar to you is really, really important. And that's how we stretch, and that's how we learn certainly about other people, but we learn more importantly about ourselves and what our capacity is. So those two things I think are critically important as far as growth, as far as success, and just taking whatever it is that you do to the next level. If you want to reach out to me through social media, I'm certainly very comfortable with that platform. I have a Facebook page, both in my name, Lesli, Lesli, no E on the end. That's a pet peeve of mine when people add that extra E, Myers, Myers. I also have a Facebook page for Life's Leadership Lessons, which is my book. I'm on Twitter at BCSD Super. And then I'm also on LinkedIn under my name. And I regularly check those. I regularly interact with individuals through those mediums. And then my book is on Amazon. I'm actually working on getting it on Kindle, but you can buy it on Amazon, or you can get it from me. I have a lot of books at home.
Hey, we hope you all enjoyed the interview with Dr. Lesli Myers. Again, we encourage you to get her book, Life's Leadership Lessons. You can find it on Amazon.com. And also, we encourage you to follow her on social media. She has some of the best inspirational and educational posts that you're going to find. She truly is everything that she speaks on in this book. So we encourage you to go out and purchase it, Amazon.com. We will see you all next week, where we're going to have a discussion on natural hair and how that plays out professionally. And, you know, there's some controversy around if it's professional or if you should wear it natural or wear it straight. So we're going to have some discussion on that. Also in the comments, if you can let us know what topics you would like us to discuss on the show, we'll be interested to know. So we will catch you back here next week. Bye. Bye.